It's Friday! Happy, happy Friday! Happy, happy Friday! Happy, happy Friday! It's Friday! And oh, I don't believe that I have met you. Allow me to introduce myself, boys and girls. My name is Larry. I may look very familiar to you because I have a cousin named Leo. He spends a lot of time in Mrs. Sigmund's classroom. Sometimes he helps the kids do certain lessons. And, Larry, what are you doing? Well, I was just introducing myself to the boys and girls. But I told you to wait until I could introduce you. Boys and girls, this is Larry, and he would like to join us today for our compare and contrast lesson. Would you like him to join us? I think I may have heard them say yes. Yay! He is really excited to be here today, but I told him he has to be very good and he has to sit quietly, just like you do in the classroom, and sit crisscross applesauce if you're on the floor, or you can just sit up in your chair. So Leo's cousin, Larry, is joining us today because his cousin Leo couldn't be here. So Larry, you ready to learn about compare and contrast? I think so. How do you compare and contrast? Well, sit back and I am going to show you. So we're going to first get rid of myself so that you can see the two stories we're going to be comparing and contrasting today. So you may recognize this story. This is our story, The Great Blizzard, with Anne, and I'm just going to do a quick review of that story. Anne was taking piano lessons, and it started to storm, and she had to leave, and on her way home, she had to go through a very heavy, heavy blizzard where the snow was falling terribly. And she was very, very scared. And she kept trudging along until she finally made it home. And I can turn the page here, I think. Nope, it's not going to let me turn the page. Oh, there we go. And so then at the end, she made it home to her dad safely. Okay, so we're going to be comparing this story with One Snowy Day. So we've been talking about One Snowy Day since Monday, and now we're going to do our compare and contrast just like we've done in the past. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun today. So going back to this story of the Great Blizzard. So first we have to look at both of the stories, and I am going to be modeling how we're going to compare them today. We think about the setting. We see that in the Great Blizzard, the story takes place in winter. And in One Snowy Day, we also see that it takes place in winter. So this is one way that the stories are the same. So we can write that on our chart, which I'm going to show you at the end. We're just going to go through and talk about all the ways that these stories are alike first. So let's think about some other ways that these stories might be alike. Hey Larry, can you think of a way that these stories might be alike? Well, let me think for just a moment. Well, I know that they're both fiction. You do? How do you know that they're both fiction? Well, because in One Snowy Day, I don't see real photos on the front cover. And I know that the illustrations are not real pictures. Very good, Larry. What else? Well, in the Great Blizzard, I can tell that these are also not real photos. This could be a realistic fiction, but it's still fiction. Excellent, Larry. You're right. They are both fiction. Is there anything else you could think of how these two stories are alike? Well, let me think. Well, I know that this one, The Great Blizzard, could be a real story because the characters could be real. The little girl and her teacher. Very good. We can see that the characters, these are characters that could be real. What about in this one? Could these characters be real? The mom, the dad, and the children? Sure, they could be real also. Excellent. So in both stories, we see that the setting is in winter, both of the stories are fiction, and that the characters could be real in both stories. Very good. Now let's take a look at how these stories might be different. Let's see. I'm going to think of one difference between the two stories. There is a blizzard in The Great Blizzard. We see that this is definitely focused on a big blizzard. In a blizzard, the snow falls quickly and heavily. A blizzard can be very dangerous. In One Snowy Day, there is not a blizzard. The snow just falls. Even though a lot of it falls on the ground, it isn't dangerous. The amount of snow is actually fun to play in. So we're going to include those on our chart as a difference. So we see that in The Great Blizzard. This story, the setting is a scary blizzard. But in this story, the setting is a fun, snowy day. Let's see, what else could be different? Boys and girls, can you think of something that is different about these two stories? I know it's been a little while since we read The Great Blizzard. Well, we know this story, The Great Blizzard, took place a long time ago. In fact, at the very end of the story, it said that this was the same day as the Great Blizzard of 1888. So we know this story took place a long, long time ago. But One Snowy Day, this story takes place more recently. So it did not take place a long time ago. So that would be one difference that we could put on our chart. We also know that in The Great Blizzard, that the setting is based on the real event of the blizzard of 1888. But we know that in this story of One Snowy Day, that the characters are made up. Last, think about what's happening in this story of The Great Blizzard. We know that it's a scary blizzard. And we know that Anne is very what? Think for just a moment, boys and girls. That's right, if you guessed it, she is worried. She's worried about getting home because she has to trudge through the snow. Here she is. If we look at her face, we can see how worried she is. But fortunately, we know that she makes it home safely. But in our story of One Snowy Day, these children aren't frightened at all. In fact, at the end of the story, the children are having so much fun playing in the snow that they don't seem to mind one bit that school is closed. Let's take a look at the very end of our story, and we will see how much fun the children are having. And there they are, throwing snowballs and having fun. So that is definitely a big difference between these two stories. So boys and girls, we're going to go ahead now and take a look at the chart that we just created. And here it is. So looking over this chart, we see that both texts have repeat after me. The setting is in winter. They are both fiction, and the characters could be real. And the differences in The Great Blizzard, the setting is a scary blizzard. The story takes place long ago. The setting is based on a real event. The story has one main character, and Anna is worried about getting home in the snow. Over here, in One Snowy Day, the setting is a fun, snowy day. The story takes place recently. The setting and the characters are made up, they're not real, and the family has fun in the snow. So, what I'd like you to do now is to pause your tape, your recording, and maybe just spend a little time looking at this chart. I would like you to practice using complete sentences and talking and sharing with a family member, your parent, grandparent, maybe even a stuffed animal, and talking and speaking in complete sentences and sharing how both texts are alike and how they're different. I'm going to model right now, and you can repeat after me. In both texts, the setting is in winter. So that would be an example of giving a complete sentence. In both texts, the setting is in winter, sharing how they're alike. That is comparing. When we contrast our two stories, we're going to give a sentence like this. In the Great Blizzard, the setting is a scary blizzard. However, in One Snowy Day, the setting is a fun, snowy day. So we can use the words like, the setting is a scary day, but in One Snowy Day, the setting is a fun, snowy day. So practice now telling and sharing complete sentences using our chart for compare and contrast. So, Larry, what did you think about compare and contrast today?
Well, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really neat seeing both stories like that. I like how you went back and forth. What do you think, boys and girls? Did you like talking and sharing about these two stories today? I sure did. It was a lot of fun. And now go and practice how to speak in complete sentences.
Larry, I am very proud of you today. You were so good and quiet and such a good listener. And I like how you really paid attention. Can you say goodbye to our boys and girls and tell them that we will see them in our next lesson following this?
Goodbye, boys and girls. I'll see you next time.